Everyone is talking about decision under different scenario. For example, if there is complete certainty about future, it is possible to take the best decision as there is only one state of nature exists for each alternative. This decision environment is called as decision making under certain conditions. Now, if there is more than one states of nature exist, the uncertainty about the event to happen increases, and hence the decision gets affected as there is influence or insufficient knowledge about the probability of any event to happen. This decision environment is called as decision making under conditions of uncertainty. So there are two types in decision making. First one is in the certainty conditions. The probability when we know the event is certain, and the second one is uncertain when we don't know the probability of happening the event. In above condition, if the probability of event to happen is known, then calculated risk is taken for each states of nature which is existing, and appropriate decision is taken, and that is called as decision environment is called as decision making under conditions of risk. So in that case, we will take calculated risk from the certain and uncertain condition. Sometimes situations exist when two or more opponent with conflicting objects try to make the decision, with each opponent try to gain at cost of others. These situations are called as different and difficult than the above conditions of certainty, uncertainty, and third one is risk. We take decision based on the risk. As this situation are against the intelligence of the opposition, so this type of decision making is called as theory of games. Theory of games. Now, in this particular chapter, first three decision environments, this certainty, uncertainty, and risk, will be discussed, and the decision tree will be covered as the part of decision theory. Now, there are various approaches for the decision theory approach. So, let us discuss them. The decision theory approach consists of four steps. First one is listening to all possible alternative. Let's take an example of logistic company which wants to decide the further plan for its business to meet the market demand. For that, we will apply decision making approach to above situation. So first, listen to all possible alternative. For that, company first it has to decide for a course of action or strategy that may be chosen, which is termed as alternative for taking the decision. The company can think for following alternative. First one is purchase new vehicle or subcontracting. Decision maker can decide only based on the appropriate basis of each alternative such that the objective are fulfilled. So here is a logistic company, and we want to decide the future plan for the business to meet the market demand. So first we find the alternative. So for that logistic company there are two alternatives: purchase a new vehicle or subcontracting. Second thing is identify the expected outcomes. Now the second step for decision making is to list out all the future events over which the decision maker has little or no control, which is termed as state of nature. For this logistic company, there may be the expected outcome can be the first, it is possible that there is high demand. Second case is there is moderate demand, and third case is there low demand. Now the next step is prepare a reward table for each and every alternative and nature of states. There is always some rewards, benefits or loss. Now based on the expected reward, based on alternative and nature of state, based on reward table is developed. So here the reward table is developed. What is the state of nature, which means the demand, then the action to purchase a new vehicle or subcontracting. So what are the rewards? This way we can prepare a reward table, and the last step is to select the optimal decision criteria. Based on reward table, we have to decide the decision maker will select the criteria which results gives the highest reward. Now for what kind of demand, what will give us the highest reward? So that will be our decision. Suppose the demand is high and we purchase a new vehicle, the reward will be the maximum. So in this way we can calculate this is the complete decision theory approach. Now how to make the decision and what are the various criteria? Decision making under conditions of uncertainty. When the, as discussed in the introduction section, under conditions of uncertainty, the decision maker has a knowledge about the state of nature that happen, but probability of happening of each nature of state is unknown. So there are various decision criterion adopted for such conditions. So there are total 5 criteria. Following are the criteria adopted for that such condition. First is max criterion or criteria of optimism. Second is maximin criteria, criteria of pessimism, minimax criteria, that is called as Savage criterion, criterion of realism, that is called as Hurwitz criterion, and fifth one is certainty of rationality, that is Laplace criterion. Now consider that one of the businessmen is planning to expand his warehouse by hiring the shop in order to meet the future demand. Now I will explain this all 5 criterion with this one example, that there is one businessman who is planning to expand his warehouse by hiring shop in order to meet the future demand. एक बिजनेसमैन है जो अपना वेयर हाउस एक्सपांड करना चाहता है, ठीक है, बाय हायरिंग अ शॉप्स को हायर करके to meet the future demand. Depending on the probability weekly market demand, following reward table is prepared for different size of warehouses. Now this is the table which is reward table, and it is prepared based on the market demand for good, medium and poor market demand, and what should be his strategy to select the small shop, medium, large or very large shops. So that is the complete reward table. Now for each criteria we will discuss how the decision making is done. So the first criteria is maximax criterion. Since this criterion considers the optimistic view or maximum possible payoff for each possible alternative is calculated even for maximum value of each alternative, strategy which pay off maximum value is adopted. So for applying maximax criterion, the table is prepared. Now we have to take from the row the maximum value from the row. So here the maximum value is 5000, here it is 7000, 9000 and 20,000. So maximum of row are taken, so these values are written over here. Out of all maximum values of each row, 20,000 is the maximum value. It can give the maximum possible payoff. This is the maximum possible payoff. So businessmen should adopt strategy of hiring very large warehouse for storage considering the future demand. The here there is one note that above table is for reward, which means benefit or profit, but the table is in form of cost, then the minimum value of each alternative is considered and the minimum value out of that is selected under this criteria or converted into mini-min criterion. So in the maxi-min criteria, maximax criteria, we select the maximum from the row and maximum from the all values. So this is the maximax criteria. Next is maxi-min criteria. Since this criteria considers the pessimistic view, it is also wild criterion or pessimistic criterion. The minimum possible payoff for each possible alternative is calculated. Out of the minimum value of each alternative, strategy which pays the maximum value is selected. So here the minimum values are minus 1000, minus 2500, minus 4500 and minus 1200. So all the minimum values are written and from that minimum value the maximum value is selected. So here the maximum value is minus 1000. So out of all minimum values of each, minus 1000 is the maximum value. So under this decision criterion of pessimism, businessmen should adopt strategy of hiring small warehouse for storage considering the future demand. So this is the maxi-min criterion in which we select the maximum from the minimum. After selecting minimum of the rows, we select the maximum value from all. Next is minimax criterion or savage criterion, or it is also called as regret criterion. This criterion is also called as regret criterion because after taking decision and occurrence of the event, decision maker might experience regret for decision taken. रिग्रेट क्राइटेरिया इसलिए कहते हैं कि डिसीजन लेने के बाद उसको जो डिसीजन मेकर है उसको रिग्रेट हो सकता है. So the decision maker tries to minimize the regret before it actually happens by selecting any strategy for each state of nature. So for that, instead of regret, to minimize the regret, we select a strategy so that the regret becomes minimum. So this criterion was developed by L.J. Savage. So it is called as Savage criterion, and the steps for this criterion are: for each state of nature, determine the maximum value corresponding to each alternative. यानी कि जो भी जो टेबल है उसमें से मैक्सिमम वैल्यू जो है वो हमको फाइंड करनी है. फाइंड आउट द रिग्रेट फॉर ईच अल्टरनेटिव बाय डिडक्टिंग दैट मैक्सिमम वैल्यू फ्रॉम द करस्पॉन्डिंग पे ऑफ each alternative. So here suppose the regret will be ith regret is equal to maximum payoff from all the table of jth event. Suppose जेथ इवेंट के लिए है, उसमें से माइनस करना है ith पे ऑफ जे इवेंट. And next step is determine the maximum regret amount for each alternative and select the alternative which corresponding to minimum of the maximum regret. Now here this is the our table, complete table. Now considering the good market demand as one of the state of nature for calculating, for this stage the of nature, very large is the alternative which is giving the maximum payoff. Here you can see the maximum payoff is at here for very large warehouse, which is 20,000. The market demand is maximum. So to calculate the regret for each alternative, deduct the payoff of each alternative from the maximum payoff and follow the same procedure for the other state of nature. यानी कि यहाँ पे जो मैक्सिमम पे ऑफ है उसमें से क्या करना है कि इसको हमको इसमें से डिडक्ट कर देना है. ठीक है, यानी कि यहाँ पे कितना पे ऑफ मिल रहा है 5,000 सपोज यहाँ पे पे ऑफ मिल रहा है. ठीक है, सो उसमें से हम यहाँ पे 20,000 माइनस 5,000, सो इट विल बी 15,000. सो सबसे पहले 20,000 में से माइनस करेंगे, सो इट विल बी 20,000 20,000 यहाँ पे मैक्सिमम है, उसमें से 5,000 माइनस करेंगे, सो इट विल बी 15,000. नेक्स्ट इट विल बी 13,000 बिकॉज 20,000 माइनस 7,000, सो इट विल बी अगेन यहाँ पे 7,000 में से माइनस करेंगे, सो इट विल बी 13,000. नेक्स्ट इट विल बी 11,000, 20 माइनस 9,000, and for last it will be 20,000 minus 20,000, so it will be 0. Now for next table, similarly we will 20,000 minus 2,000, so it will be 18,000. Sorry, we have to take the maximum from that. So here the maximum for second table, the maximum value for second table is 2, that is 3,500 and 3,500. So 3,500 minus 2,000, it will be 1,500. So we will minus 3,500 from 2,000, so it will be 1,500. And for set 2 it will be 0 0 0 0, and 3,500 minus 2,500, so it will be 1,000. Now the maximum regret will be for the third value. The maximum regret will be for this, that is minus 1,000. So this is the maximum value. From that we will minus the all other values. So here it will be the minus 1,000 minus 2,500, so it will be plus 1,500, 0, then plus 1,500, then minus 1,000 plus 4,500, because minus minus plus, so it will be 3,500, then minus 1,000 minus 12,000, so it will be plus 12,000, so it will be 11,000. Now from that we have to calculate the maximum regret amount for the each alternative as shown. So the maximum regret, that will be the जो maximum regret होगा वो यहाँ पे रो में से जो मैक्सिमम वैल्यू है वो यहाँ पे कितनी है 15,000, यहाँ पे 13,000 और यहाँ पे 11,000 और यहाँ पे भी 11,000 है. सो उनमें से यहाँ पे मैक्सिमम रिग्रेड में से हमको मिनिमम रिग्रेट चूज करना है. सो सिलेक्टिंग द मिनिमम रिग्रेट. सो मिनिमम रिग्रेट we will get for the large and very large strategy. So this will be the best strategy for minimax criteria, or according to this savage criteria or regret criteria. Next criteria is criterion of realism or Hurwitzian criterion. In the criterion of optimism, we are optimized and focusing on the maximum of each alternative for each state of nature, while on the other hand, in the case we are considering the minimum of each alternative. In reality, any extreme condition are not reached. Hence, a new criterion of realism was developed by Hurwitz, which allocates the weighted average to both the situations. This criterion allows the decision maker to consider both maximum and minimum payoff for each alternative and assign them appropriate weightage according to its degree of optimism. Now, the degree of optimism is known as index of optimism, and index of optimism is called as alpha, denoted by. Now, applying the criteria of realism, the problem with considering the index of optimism alpha is equal to 0.75, we use the formula which is equal to alpha into the maximum value plus 1 minus alpha into V minimum value from the table. So from each row we have to find out the maximum of the row and minimum of the row and take the alpha as 0.75. So here the maximum and minimum from the row are written. From the row value, the maximum value is 5000, minimum value is 1000. So in this way, for all we have written, and we apply the equation V is equal to, so here the value V is equal to alpha is equal to 0.75 into V maximum is 5000 plus 1 minus alpha, which means 0.75 into V minimum, that is minus 1000. So here we will get the first value. According to that, we will calculate for all values. Now, if the value of index for optimism is taken as 1, then this criteria becomes the criterion of optimism. On the other hand, if the index for optimism is taken as 0, this criterion becomes the pessimism. So for realism, it is taken as alpha is equal to 0.75 and the maximum value is taken as the optimal criteria. And the last criteria is criteria of rationality, or that is called as Laplace criterion or Bayes criterion. This criterion is based on the principle of insufficient reason, as the probability of happening any state of nature is not known. Equal probability are assigned to each state of nature. So average of each payoff is considered as per this criterion. So here the average is taken for the each payoff, which means we will take the sum of this divided by n is equal to 3. So here we will take sum of this for each row and divided by 3, which means 1 upon n, p1 plus p2 plus up to pn. So in this way we will find the average and the maximum value is selected as the optimum criteria. So this is all about the decision making criteria. This is the end of today's lecture. Thank you very much for listening me carefully. Have a nice day.